Hello. Last video I said 2 weeks shy of 19 days. What I actually meant was 2 days shy. And again, it's a Friday. It is Friday the 7th of June. So I'm 2 days, not weeks, shy of 23 weeks. And so I'm into my 5th month of growing Bubba. And this week actually was a little traumatic. So it's been 4 weeks. It's been about, almost a month since the last video. So definitely time for an update, and each week I've wanted to share what's been going on, but I guess it was really not much going on apart from lots of life stuff was quite busy, and Bubba almost had to take a back seat, obviously still growing and doing his or her thing, but I had to step up. We had a staff member decide to leave, and it was the staff member we'd been training up for when we had our baby, so things have changed a little bit behind the scenes of our business. And it means that we are in the process of hiring. So that's kind of extra stuff that we weren't planning to do in these few months leading up to the arrival of Bubba. I know everything happens for a reason, and I believe in divine timing. So we're confident that everything's going to work out okay. It has just meant that there's been a few extra things in the timetable of late. In amongst all that, we ran our 3rd retreat, which was a huge success, very exciting. And we've booked in our next one for next year. So we've given ourselves a year to prep. So just like I guess we know now with Bubba arriving end of September, beginning of October, that there's going to be a lot of things we need more time to think about and get our heads around. So just kind of getting ourselves ready and getting ahead with all of that stuff, because it's obviously there's other things that are going to start to take over our time. But this week actually something quite interesting happened. So I was feeling really good, felt on a massive high after the retreat last weekend. Things have been busy but manageable, and the beauty of it is that we get to work from home. Maddie just got home, so he's going to come and do a cameo appearance in a second. And so everything's fine, feeling really good. And then, so it's Friday today, Tuesday morning, woke up and went to the bathroom as normal at my usual 4/4:30 a.m. time when Bubba's jumping up and down on my bladder and needing to go to the toilet. And when I wiped, I had some little bit of spotting, which obviously isn't ideal. And I did the usual kind of calm yourself down, talk yourself through it. There's nothing wrong. Kind of get wiping and seeing more blood and just kind of freaking out a little in my head. Maddie'd already gone to work, so it was just me and the dog, Prim, at home. And it being that early in the morning, I didn't feel right texting or calling anybody. I kind of stewed on it for half an hour. I did what I'd been told was good to see if, because I'd had decreased fetal movement as well, so I hadn't been feeling baby as much, probably because we'd been so busy. I had a few little flutters here or there, but nothing as big as I had been experiencing. So yeah, when that all happened, it was a bit of a shock. I was about to go teach a yoga session that I had offered to cover. And so I had a glass of water, laid on my left side, still didn't get any fetal movement. So I ended up texting my midwife and thought, well, when she wakes up, hopefully she'll see it. I'll go teach my yoga class and figure out what's happening. But I went to the toilet 2 more times before I left the house, and there was more blood. So I was a bit kind of not sure what was going on. It was a bit scary. Maddie, how did you go with it all?
It was very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Stace called me while I was at work.
Yeah, so I ended up texting my midwife and then calling Maddie.
Yeah, so called me at work and there was 2 missed calls, which is Stace knew that I was working, so it's not something that she would usually do. Which straight away I knew something was up, so I quickly ran out and called her.
And I tried to keep my cool when I was telling you what was going on.
And as soon as you kind of said that you'd talk to the midwife and stuff, like, I'm a very positive person anyway, so I tried to think of it in a positive light, like, hey, it's all right and everything's going to be fine. Like, I know everything's all right now. Oh, I was hoping that everything was going to be all right.
We just had to get it checked.
It's just like, okay, as a
precautionary.
I guess, precautionary thing, we had to go and get it checked. So first thought was like a gut sinking as soon as I had the call. And so as soon as I had the missed calls and I knew something was up. And then once we actually talked it out a little bit, I was like, okay, things are going to be all right. When we got to the hospital and went through all of it, obviously the biggest relief was once we heard the baby's heartbeat. And so once I heard that, I was like, okay, everything's all good. Within saying that, later on, I started thinking about the repercussions for Stace. I was like, okay, well, maybe there's something up for her. And I actually had to leave early, which meant that Stace was left to fend for herself at the hospital. But I think we'd gotten through the worst of what she had to deal with. And once we both knew the baby was all right, I think it was a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for sharing.
that's all right.
I'll let you keep moving.
Sorry about all the noise that I made.
It's okay. I couldn't hear it. So yeah, I guess what I also wanted to share was maybe if you have to go through something like that, to definitely take somebody with you to the hospital. I was originally planning on going on my own because I was putting on my brave, strong face, and I spoke to Maddie before the yoga class and again after, and I just couldn't make any decisions. And when I broke down in tears, he's like, I know I need to come with you. And then he was 40 minutes away. So that was where the discussion really lay, was I was only 20 minutes away and he was going to be 40 minutes away. And would he get there in time? And yes, because it's the public hospital system. So there was plenty of waiting around. So I got to the hospital on my own. Just before I got there, actually, I spoke to my best friend because we were meant to be having a catch-up call that morning anyway. And when she found out what was going on and realised that she was only 5 minutes away from the hospital that I was going to, she was like, I'm getting my first couple of hours of work covered. I'm coming to be there for you. And that is exactly what I needed in that moment. So I guess my advice, if you're in a situation like this, hopefully it never happens for you, but have those people that you can lean on that are close by, that can be there for you when you need them. Because I'm not the sort of person to ask for help, but these are the sorts of people that are there for me when I do need them. And it meant so much to me to have them there. So even just as a distraction, because I got to the hospital on my own and the receptionist was asking me all these questions, like the check-in lady at the counter, and I didn't know how to answer them. And because we've gone with private midwives and we've got a doula, but none of those people were coming to meet me because they'd asked if I wanted them to, but people need to tell me that they're coming, not ask me if I want them to, because I don't want to put people out. So I just say, no, don't worry about it, when really I needed them. And so the midwife and the doula didn't come because they don't know me that well to know that I needed them. These questions about, do you want to fill out the private form or the public form? I'm like, I don't know. I've not done this before. I'm coming in quite emotionally distressed, not knowing what's going on. So it was just a kind of traumatic experience when it didn't need to be. I feel like the communication from them could have been better or more empathic, more supportive, because I was trying to fill out the form and I was in tears. And for somebody to just come around and say, do you want help filling out that form, would have been nice, but that's where I think it's important to go in with somebody. So maybe I should have held off until Maddie had got home from work and then we could have gone in together. Probably would have been better in hindsight, but I think I was just thinking I need to get to the hospital and check everything's okay, because I still had a little bit of blood. It wasn't anything major, but just, obviously wanted to get everything checked out. And so when Karina got there, it was just like such a breath of relief, because they'd put me into the waiting room and still hadn't really told me what was going on. And I needed the toilet, so I just went. And then I think half an hour later or 45 minutes later, when I finally went into a hospital room, then they were like, oh, let's have a urine sample. And I was like, I don't have anything left really, because you didn't tell me this was coming. So again, like a lack of communication. The staff were lovely, don't get me wrong, very sweet, very caring, but just I see understaffed, and I know I'm not going to be able to change that, but just the level of communication with what was coming could have been a bit better. Like, hey, we don't know how long you're going to wait. Can you jump in this room? We're going to ask you for a urine test in a sec. And that would be the steps that would have made me feel a bit more comfortable. Luckily, when Karina came, she distracted me with chat. And then Maddie got there to take over. And then Karina was able to leave. And then Maddie and I went into the room. And again, just kind of hanging out. And like, I kept asking, what's happening? You know, can you give me an idea of the test you're going to do or the process you're going to use? And it was kind of like, how long's a piece of string? And we don't know yet. So it was very much uncomfortable, more so because they just weren't telling me what was going to happen. So I'm just sharing the story so that if you do have to go in, that you kind of know what to expect, but also hope you don't have to go through this. And it turned out they still don't know really where the blood came from, because when they did the internal examination, so I ended up having a Doppler to check the baby's heartbeat, urine test, a blood test, and an internal scraping, which was like the worst pain I've ever had for a pap smear. I don't know why it needed to be as painful as it was, but anyway, it was. And that by that time, Maddie had left, so I was just using my breathing and my meditation to get through. And once it was all over, they said, we don't know where it was coming from, just keep an eye on fetal movement, and if you get any more bleeding, come straight back. And that's where it's been left. I don't know what the results of the tests were. But I'm just assuming everything's fine because baby's heartbeat was strong and I felt him or her kick a lot over the last few days since then. So everything's fine. It's funny, I put up a post on social media to share the fact that I think it's important that people ask for help. And that was the lesson that I learned from that. And a lot of people were like, oh, do you think it's a sign that you're doing too much? Maybe you need to back off a bit. And I hear what everyone's saying and I appreciate their concern, but my life is so relaxed compared to the rest of the world and even to myself, even last year. So, you know, I get to work from home. I get to have my own schedule around some of the other stuff that are commitments, like teaching yoga classes and things like that and meetings that we have. But really, I definitely honor my own needs and the baby's needs more than the average person would. So I kind of laugh, not in a mean way, but just in a reflective kind of, I'm not that person anymore. And maybe that advice is coming from the people that knew the old me or see what I'm doing from afar and think it's too much for someone who's in my situation. But definitely being pregnant is not a disability or an illness. It's just makes life a little more challenging. But yeah, that doesn't mean that I can't still do the things that I enjoy. And now that we know baby's okay, we're able to move on and life is normal. So yeah, everyone kept trying to force me to cancel stuff and pull out of stuff. And I'm like, no, I feel good. And, you know, sleep does get more challenging as the baby grows bigger. And I haven't had the best sleeps this week, but I think it's important to keep moving and to keep being a human because otherwise you just wallow in your own self-pity and then you feel even worse. So I want to stay positive and I want to keep moving. And I think that's important. So I think that's enough for today because it's almost a 12-minute video. But thank you so much for tuning in for up to almost 23 weeks. And I will see you next time. Let me know if you've got any questions. I'm more than happy to share more of the story if you have queries or concerns about something that you're going through yourself. Obviously, I can't diagnose anything, but just happy to be an ear to listen. So reach out if you need. Peace out. Thanks for listening.